And we are live. So welcome back to the Get Your Shit Together show. And today we have somebody that I have actively and not secretly been stalking on LinkedIn for an awfully long time, probably for the last year or so, who I have been loving their content for quite some time. But also what I've been finding really interesting, especially the last 12 to 18 months following them, was they set up a business in 2019, and their business is based on pretty much bringing people together, having a party, being able to socialize. And then 2020 hit, and bam, what couldn't we do? We couldn't socialize. We couldn't get groups of people together. However, this person has never faltered in their humor, their positivity. And so I'm going to welcome Iain Griffiths to the place. How are you?
I'm here. Yeah, I can't believe this is the first time we've spoken and it's live on LinkedIn. We should have really sort of had a chat before this by now. But
we definitely tried, but timing was not our friend.
So I'm really good. The sun's shining, lots of work coming in. Family are all in good health. I'm happy.
That's awesome. It's good to hear that you're happy. And I've got to say, if anyone is watching this, thank you so much, because the sun is shining. It's like one of the first warm days, like proper warm days in a while. So thank you so much for joining in. So you're right. We haven't had a chance to speak before this, but we have been chatting over LinkedIn for quite some time. And like I said, I've been, not so quietly stalking you on LinkedIn with all your positive posts.
So you've just broken up there, Katie. I don't know what.
Oh, is it better now?
Yeah, that's better. Yeah.
Oh, technology. What can I say?
Might be the internet connection.
Yeah, no, that's all good. I actually moved house at the end of last year just to get better internet. That's how bad my internet was in my old place. Yeah, it was so bad. I literally moved 500 meters down the road because my old street was the only street that didn't have fiber optics. So I literally moved 500 meters down the road just to get better internet. But anyway, so I wanted to thank you so much for taking some time out today to have a chat with me in regards to everything you're doing. So to be fair, you've got a pretty interesting story on how from where you've come from to where you are right now. So you started off in the armed forces and now you run a really awesome marquee business and you're franchising it out. So how did that start? How did you get from there to here?
So I left the armed forces in 2007. Ended up, I had a couple of really, they were sort of gap filler jobs, if you like. I worked in Tesco for a bit, which, nothing against people who work in Tesco's, but it really wasn't for me. And then I got a job with the job centre, doing job searches for all the people who are in the job centre looking for jobs, which, wasn't sort of great. But the great thing about working for the job centre is I had the pick of the new jobs that were coming in. So I was actively looking on the job centre every day because I worked there for any new jobs that came in. I then landed an interview with a big media company called Auto Trader. So if you've ever bought a car, everybody knows who Auto Trader are. So I worked, so there's a little bit of a mad story with that. I got the interview, turned up at the interview, and in walks my mum's next door but one neighbour, Wendy, who was in the year above me at school. And, I did the interview and got the job because I already knew that person. So that was quite good. Worked for Auto Trader for a few years, but kept getting sort of promoted and went all the way from customer services to acting area sales manager when I left through redundancy. So just before, maybe a year before I left Auto Trader through redundancy, I started writing a business plan for a marquee hire business. And the reason I did that is because I tried to hire a marquee for my garden and it was too expensive. So I thought there must be a solution for people who just want a small marquee in the garden for a celebration. So I recruited a lady called Jill Hunt from John Moores University in Liverpool. and we sat in the corner of a pub called the Philharmonic every Thursday evening and wrote my business plan. And then I started hiring marquees out on the weekends. Luck had it, well, fate had it really. I'm a big believer in fate, that they came along and said, look, Auto Trader came to us and said, there's going to be redundancies. There's 7 people and 5 jobs, or 4 jobs, I think it was. And we all had to go up against each other for these jobs, or some could take voluntary redundancy. So I took that. There was an advanced package offering because, you know, we were sort of quite high up in the in the chain of it within the company. So we got a nice chunk. And I used that money then to buy more equipment and move into business premises. And then the rest of it's kind of just history. I've been doing that now for 10 years. And then, like you said, in 2019, we made it into a franchise model, which now we have signed the first franchisee up. He launched last Monday on the 17th, 2 weeks ago, maybe. Yeah, 2 weeks ago today. And he's already done over £2,000 in sales in 2 weeks, which is really good.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I love that. So you went from, you know, kind of getting people jobs, got a job, and then you ended up doing this as your what people would call the side hustle, and then turned it into a franchise business in 2019. But then 2020 hit, right? And then obviously that was a thing that happened where people couldn't actually catch up, in the marquee world could have plummeted for a couple of months anyway of last year. So how did you deal with that?
So well, we were literally ready to launch the franchise in March of 2020, because obviously when you start to franchise your business, there's a lot of things that you've got to get in place prior to signing a franchisee up, i.e. you've got to get your onboarding process right. You've got to get all your legal documents, your franchise agreements. You've got to get your operations manual, which is, you know, that's how you teach the inner workings of your business. So you've basically got to get this whole processes and systems of the business into a written or video document, or a mixture of two. And so you can then teach the franchisees how the business works. So there's a lot of work before you can sign a franchisee. So I did that from 2019 to 2020, and we were just about to launch, and then the pandemic hit. So on the 23rd of March, Boris came out and he said that, you know, he said what he said, we're going into lockdown. And, you know, it was either sort of sit and cry about it or do something about it. So that evening, I went out for a big long walk and sort of got my head sort of around what was going to happen and what I was going to do to counteract what was happening. So on the 24th of March, I came into this office. And I've still got it on my computer now. It's a spreadsheet called the Coronavirus Battle Plan. So what I did was I got all my outgoings, printed all my bank statements off, got all my outgoings into a spreadsheet, tried to work out what I could cut down, work out, you know, where I could try and save some money and bring some outgoings down. I had some money in the bank, which was fine. And then, so I got all that straight in my head. Obviously, Rishi came out a couple of days later and came out with the offering of what financial help we got, which was great. And then from the 25th of March, I went to the other business premises, which is about 3 miles away from here, which is a small warehouse where we keep all the marquee equipment. And it was really sunny, wasn't it? So I every day I was going in and I was just cleaning all the marquee equipment down, because the mindset that I had was, right, although I'm not putting any marquees up now, when we come out of this, I'm going to be ready to go. And that's what I did. I just kept doing that every day to be sane. Some days I'd come into the office to do some admin work. And that's kind of what I did. I just thought, you know, when your back's up against the wall, you've got to fight, haven't you? So that's exactly what I did.
I think a lot of people, you know, the 23rd of March hit. I remember when it announced at that stage, I had only been in business for a little bit, and my business was reliant on other businesses paying me money, obviously. And I had the same thing. I had that like, oh shit moment where I've just got to like, okay, cool. Like, didn't create a battle plan, but I was just like, I'm going to. You go into you know, the survival mode, and there's if you go into the survival mode, you're either going to run away, or you're going to fight. Or freeze, depending on who you are, because that's what I talk about a lot of. But it sounds like you just sort of had the initial shock, went for a walk, cleared your head, and was like, do you know what? I'm gonna do what I can, not focusing on what you can't. But then what I noticed was that you came on LinkedIn. I don't know if you'd been on LinkedIn prior to that, but you came on LinkedIn, and I remember seeing you.
Yeah, I'd kind of been on LinkedIn then. I think I started on LinkedIn properly in about November of 2019, properly. Something like that, yeah. So I hadn't been on there long. So I think when the coronavirus happened, I think I only had like maybe 1,500, 2,000 connections, something like that.
And you've got like 13,000 or something like that now? Something
like that, yeah. I'm not really bothered about followers or anything like that. It's not sort of my vibe. I just sort of, it doesn't really bother me, and engagement and things like that. It's not really sort of anything that I measure. It's more of like the interaction, the connections of people like yourself who I'm friends with on there. And I've, a lot of my friends are on LinkedIn.
That's awesome. To be fair, I saw you and I just remember seeing all your stuff, and I just thought you were hilarious. Like, you just came out with like the weirdest jokes and weirdest posts. So I was like, all right, I'm going to go follow this guy because he was awesome. But there's a question that's come in from Thomas Woodhams. Good old Thomas. So how do you think LinkedIn has helped you with regards to your business, and what are you looking to get out of the platform in the next 6 months?
Okay, so since the beginning of the pandemic, I've probably had 150 franchise inquiries, which are in my funnel now. So there's that. I've probably done about 20 or 30 discovery calls now. Although I've got all of those inquiries and done all of those discovery calls, it's a bit of a weird one in a sense that the restrictions are lifting now on the 21st of June, which is, hopefully they are, which is kind of halfway through a marquee hire season. So we're not getting people over the line signing franchise agreements because there's still the uncertainty of the pandemic, but also the starting halfway through a season when really, ideally, you want to open your business in January, February, so you're ready for the beginning of that fair season, if that makes sense. So we're expecting that funnel will kind of get some traction with regards to franchise sign-ups towards the back end of this year, ready to start in the 2022 season, if that makes sense. And we'll be able to prove value to them by the traction that the Newcastle upon time franchisee is doing now, because he's doing really well. So you go to somebody with a success story, then, that gives them the incentive to sign up. So within the next 6 months, that's what we're planning to do. Now, with my sort of, I don't just do heavy sales messages. I just put out there what I do, and just tell the story about what I do. And then I just have a little bit of a joke around as well, because, you've got to have a personality as well, haven't you? So, yeah. I do a mixture of the both. No heavy sales messages. I don't really inbox people and sort of pester them, because I don't really like that. That's not my vibe. But yeah, over the next 6 months, I think we're going to sign a few more franchisees up. I'd be surprised if we didn't have maybe between 5 and 8 all set to go for next season.
Yeah, because you just launched your first one last week, which is awesome that you're able to launch your first franchise. So you can use that as a case study to then to launch some more. Now, Thomas, with the questions, I'm going to say Thomas is going to ask us many of the questions. So he said, he's asked you before, but when are you looking to branch down south?
Well, that's sort of, the way that we do it with regards to territories is anyone can sign up. So if someone wants to sort of say, I know that Thomas is in Brighton. So for instance, in his area, what we would do is we'd pick the area that he wants to open up in, which I'm assuming it would be Brighton. And then we give him 200 households in his territory, in his geographical area. and that's his territory, then not to say that he can't travel out of his area if there isn't another franchisee in that sort of particular postcoded area. So that's how we do it. So we have actually got people who are interested. The one down in Cornwall who is sort of he's interested. He just needs to sort of get a few things together. We've had one in Watford. Can't remember the other one. Cheltenham, I think the other one was. So yeah, there are people looking down south, and you know, some of the areas down south, we would be able to sort of did smash it. You know, if you had one sort of touching in London or somewhere like that, or anywhere really, as long as you've got like sort of suburban areas and built up areas and maybe a bit of countryside next to you, and you've got those three sort of sort of elements combined within your geographical area, you'll do really well. So Matthew's just asked another question, hasn't he? Talk us through the process of engaging to become a franchisee. So Matthew, all you need to do is drop me a DM, and then I will get my colleague Richard to send you a free information pack, which is a prospectus. And then after that, if you want to take things further, we set up an informal discovery call on a Zoom.
That's awesome. I love that you did my work for me. Then I appreciate that. Like, I appreciate that you took over hosting for a split second to answer Matthew's question. High five! I welcome that. Make my life a little bit easier. No, I think that's awesome. To be honest, I live in Tunbridge Wells, so anyone that's from Tunbridge Wells, do that, because built up area. There's countryside all around us. Definitely a good place for for a franchisee. So what I find really interesting as well is with you, especially with your content on LinkedIn and your business. And to be fair, like I said, you know, you tried to launch, like you already said it, you wanted to launch a new aspect to your business, which was in March last year. You're probably not really going to be able to hit it off until March 2022, which is fine because that, you know, you've done a lot of prep work for it. But your positivity just shines through on LinkedIn, and you're super honest about everything that you've gone through as well. Like, not only did you get, you know, did the 2020 hit you, because obviously that's going to be your full-time business, and then obviously stunting your next business venture, but you also got diagnosed with autism, which, to be honest, I think a lot of people shy away from talking about if they've got any type of neurodiversity or neuro issue, or even just mental health, right? We don't talk about that kind of stuff. And especially when we talk about autism, you think about kids, you don't really think about adults as much. But you came out 2 months ago, 3 months ago, and were really honest about it. Yeah.
So I think it was at the age of, how old am I now? 30. Yeah, 36. Yeah. So 2 summers ago it was. So yeah, just coming up to 2 years ago, I was diagnosed with autism. And it's a bit of a crazy story, really, because both of my boys went through the pathway for autism. So they've both got autism. Both very different sort of ends of the spectrum, really. One's really boisterous and jumps around a lot. He's a bit like Tigger off Winnie the Pooh, doesn't stop moving, very, very sort of active. And then the other one is quite introvert in himself, quite an emotional guy. So very, very different, but both my boys, Leo and Isaac. So we're going through the pathway. Obviously, because I'm really busy all the time, Mum took them to most of the appointments. But when Leo, who's the eldest, was getting his diagnosis, his formal diagnosis, I went to the last appointment with him, with Mum as well. And then the lady who was diagnosing him said, the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree, does it? And I was like, what do you mean? She went, you've definitely got it. I was like, all right. So, but it does answer a lot of sort of questions of my childhood, things that I went through during my, you know, throughout my teenage years and sort of early 20s. I drank a lot, did some drugs, stuff like that. In social situations. So if we went for a few pints to the pub with a group of friends, I would end up getting absolutely smashed, and there was no explanation for it. And it was because I was in a social setting, and that was my sort of way of dealing with that social situation which getting absolutely hammered. So it answers loads of questions about my childhood, which is cool, isn't it? Because, you know, I kind of just thought, you know, that I was just trying to fit into some sort of society, and I wasn't I'd mask all my symptoms. You know, anxiety. I've been through bouts of depression because of this, you know, this condition. And yeah, I'm just glad that I know what it is now, because in certain situations now, I know how to handle things. So if I'm in a social setting, I don't drink anymore, by the way, but if I'm in a social setting and things get a little bit too loud or a little bit too busy for me, I just go outside and remove myself from that situation for 10 minutes, calm down, a few deep breaths, and then I'm back in and I'm buzzing. Do you know what I mean? So I understand how to manage different situations now.
That's massive. So what were some of the symptoms that you were like, oh, that makes complete sense now, like social settings and things like that? But what else?
Yeah. So so when the kids are running around and being noisy and very fast moving and stuff like that, really sort of makes my head really busy and sort of get a little bit too much for me. Do you know what I mean? And I'll end up shouting at them because, and really they're just being children. It's not their fault. They're just playing. Do you know what I mean? But sometimes it'll just make me feel a little bit, it's a little bit too much. Do you know what I mean? So sometimes now, if I'll wear earplugs if they're just playing, do you know what I mean? And it's fine. I've got these sort of special earplugs that I can put in, and it just sort of takes away the edge of the screaming and stuff like that. So there's different things that you can use, different techniques. So that's one of them. Yeah, so another one to do with it's all to do with the children, you know, because sometimes when you're autistic, you don't sort of understand things from other people's perspectives. So sometimes the children would want to play Lego with me, and I wasn't really too bothered about doing it now. So now I make a conscious effort to, because I understand that they like playing with Lego. So it's not about me not wanting to do it. I should do that with them. So I have a better relationship with the children now. Things like that.
That's awesome. No, I think, and here's the thing, right? I think a lot of us shy away from talking about mental health issues, or like I said, neurodiversity types of issues as well. Yeah. So I think the fact that you've come out as a 36-year-old man, now you're 38, to be able to say, you know, I've got autism, and I was diagnosed quite late, but it makes so much sense for you, and it helps you in social settings. Like, you know, when you're feeling a bit overwhelmed in loud situations or in social situations, you now just remove yourself, like, and that's a good place to be. And not drinking. Do you not drink because of I don't just not drink. Now and again I will have a drink, but it's got to be for a reason. I won't just, like, if we have a barbecue in the garden, I find it pointless just having a few drinks. Like, if I'm going to go to a concert or go away for a weekend or go on holiday, then I'll take a hangover on the chin. But I really suffer for a few days afterwards when I have been drinking, you know, a bit of regret, remorse, anxiety, depression. I just don't really sort of handle hangovers well. So I just kind of, it's just the balance is not it for the 8 hours of drinking and having a good time. Doesn't outweigh what I have to deal with for a few days after. So I just choose not to do it. And I like my fitness and stuff now. So, you know, you can bring that up. I was going to bring your fitness up.
You can go and have a good time without drinking. That's the point I'm making. Look, I was in the Royal Navy for 5 years and I can't remember any of it because I was drunk for most of it. So
yeah. How did you get into the army?
How did I get in? I just sort of I left
what was
school.
The thought process? Like, what was like, yeah, I'm going to go join the army. Like, that seems like a great idea.
Yeah, so I left school with not great qualifications, not great GCSEs. I did a warehousing course and distribution, it was called, in college, and I did placement, worked in a warehouse to do that, which ultimately I always thought that was a bit of a waste of time, you know, but now I use those skills every single day because I've got my own warehouse and I use the skills that I learned, invoicing, all sorts of stuff. I used to work on the trade counter there and stuff like that. I use all those skills now, so it wasn't a waste of time. But I kind of just felt that where I lived at the time, I was maybe knocking around with the wrong crowd. I didn't really have any direction. I was just working in a warehouse, living at my mum's, and I just thought, you know what, I'm going to go and see the wider world. So yeah, I joined the Royal Navy, and within a year, I was in doing my basic training.
Sorry, I was saying the Army, it's the Navy. Sorry, pardon me that. So you did that for 5 years. You drank the whole time. You don't remember much of it.
Yeah, well, no, you're not drunk all the time. But
yeah, no, I know.
Time, like as soon as that ship goes alongside a jetty, so I went to Rio de Janeiro for 10 days, and I cannot remember any of that. Recife in Brazil, the Falklands. When you're at sea, you're not drunk, but as soon as that ship's alongside, everyone is.
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense. And so now, like, if there's any ladies watching and you've not gone and seen Ian's photo that he put up of himself about 2-3 months ago of him just being giantly ripped, go check it out. But you're really into your fitness right now, aren't you?
Yeah, well, do you know what, right? I've always trained maybe since about 2010, but I've never I've never been super strict with the diet side of things. So that's what I've done, because obviously I had to drink and stuff like that. So when you drink, there's lots of calories in that. And the aftermath of drinking is kebabs, McDonald's the next day. It's just a big spiral of unhealthiness. So yeah.
I talk about alcohol as stealing happiness. Like it's stealing happiness from tomorrow. That's how I always talk about alcohol. So I don't drink often myself, but I'm similar to you. But I love that because I'm a nutritionist by trade. So a lot of people don't know that I am actually a nutritionist. So when you say, it's the alcohol element, it's a lot of empty calories. There's no real point to it. Then you just like the choices of food that you have, because you obviously spike your blood sugar levels, they drop. Then you're craving like food to like soak it up. And then you feel like crap for like the next few days to be able to get back into the gym. You just can't get in there, or you can't do the kind of workouts that you want to do.
Once you haven't been in the gym for a few days, it's hard to get back into that mindset. So what I do now is 2 days on, 1 day off, 2 days on, 1 day off. And that's how I do it. And the thing is, like, if people say they haven't got time to get into the gym, it's rubbish, because you can go into a gym and do what you need to do in 40 to 45 minutes on your way to work, on your way home to work, from work. And there's just no excuse. There's absolutely no excuse. And I just have to be that blunt about it. It's just, there isn't. And also when it comes to that, I haven't got time to meal prep. It takes half an hour, and I do my emails whilst I'm meal prepping. There's no excuse for that either. Mm-hmm. And I have cheap meals. I had a piece of I had a piece of chocolate cake last night, but that's fine because I did 18,000 steps yesterday.
Yeah, I think the thing is, when it comes to exercise, diet, all the healthy things. So I always talk about sleep, exercise, and diet. That they're my 3 pillars of like physical health, right? So you want to make sure you're having a good night's sleep. But with diet and exercise, it's easy for people to turn around and go, I don't have time, I'm too busy, or whatever it is. It's usually an external force is telling you to do that. You actually have to be able to say, you know what, like, exactly what you did in the external force of COVID, right? Instead of actually going, oh, well, there goes my business for the next 12 months, whatever it is. You were like, what can I do? Like, what can I control? And we're talking about this off screen. It's not about what you can't control. It's all about what you can control. Yeah. You can control what you can do with your time and what you choose to do. And so, if you can only get to the gym for like 30 to 40 minutes, go for 30 to 40 minutes. But you can get in there. You can do a really good workout in 30 to 40 minutes. I even said people, and even if you can do 15 minutes of HIIT every second day, that's also something you can do. But the diet element is the toughest. I get that.
Absolutely, yeah. So if you're going to the gym, right, and then you go home and eat pizzas and curly whirlies and Mars bars, you may as well just sit at home and watch Coronation Street, because it's just absolutely pointless. It is. If you don't, it's all 80% kitchen, 20% gym.
Yep. The diet is the hardest part for various reasons. People tie emotions to their eating, timing and things like that. But here's the thing, it can be really, really simple to eat very, very healthy. It's just about the discipline, and it's understanding what you can do personally to be able to make sure that you take care of your diet. So how do you, like, what do you do for your diet? I'm always curious as a nutritionist where to ask this question.
Right. So I've just changed my diet this week. So what I was doing was I was doing 4 chicken, rice, and veg meals a day, but I sauced them up. I just use sauce, piri piri mayo. I just change burger sauce, whatever it is. You know, I'm not going in any bodybuilding contest, so it's all right to throw a bit of sauce on your food. I was doing that 4 times a day. And then after training, I have a shake and a large tin of pineapples to help with the digestion of the food. So that's what I did for 8 months, 90% of the time, and that's how I got ripped. So now I'm doing a lot more sort of cardio during the day. Like I said yesterday, I did 18,000 steps, quite a lot of steps. So I have increased my food. So in the mornings, I still have the 4 chicken and rices and the tin of pineapples and the shake after training. But I also have thrown a steak mince, bolognese and pasta dish in the evening. And in the morning, this one is so good if you want to sort of, I've been loving this. So it's a cup of porridge oats, a cup of milk and a little bit of water, 2 scoops of whey, and then one of those protein yogurts in it to make it all really creamy. So that's what I've been doing in the mornings. And I get up and look forward to that one because it's a new sort of dish into my daily routine. I'm sure I'll get sick of it in a month or something,
But to be fair, you've had the same kind of diet for 8 months now. So, like, you know, the chicken and the rice and veg with different sauces, like that sounds like...
if you struggle with chicken, rice and veg, right, trust me, this sounds disgusting, but make a cup of chicken bistro gravy and lash it over the top of the chicken, rice and veg. And honest to God, it is just like a roast dinner.
To be fair, I am a big fan of gravy. So I put gravy on everything. Like I went through this, like I'm one of these people, we might be actually really similar to this. I've got like a routine and I stick to it. Like it makes my life a little bit easier. So I buy the same types of foods and eat the same way for quite a period of time. And then I get over it and then I'll choose another thing for probably the next like however many months or whatever it is. But I find that the easiest, but like I got addicted to gravy. I'm not gonna lie. The last 8 months, I'm just like, just give me some gravy. I'll go for it. And it's like, everyone's like, is it healthy? I'm like, yes, we'll go with it. It's healthy. It's probably got a bit of salt in it, but that's okay. It's okay if you're drinking enough water and if you're not eating. The whole thing with salt is just making sure it's balanced, right? It's not saying that you can't have salty things. It's just saying monitor it. And if you have high blood pressure, that's a different kind of conversation. I think from what I see from you is you're really disciplined. Like if we look at everything that you did, like even just 2020, you know, going in every day to clean your marquees, going in every day to do something for your business, then it's like, you know what, I exercise 2 days on, 1 day off. I have the same types of milk. You're just really disciplined.
Yeah. Well, and also it hasn't always been like that. I think as I've got older, my sort of, do you know what, right? I'm scared of getting old, I turned 38 last week and I'm frightened to death of turning old. So I'm clinging on to my youth now. That's what, by the tips of my fingers, like that's what I'm trying to do. Just cling on to that youth. So I'm being, I am being disciplined.
No, to be fair, everyone, like I always talk about why do you do certain things. So like, you know, as a when I was first a nutritionist, like 10, 15 years ago, I could guarantee you I would get the same responses like, why do you want to lose weight? Or why did you come to see me as a nutritionist? It was always the same kind of thing. It was, you know, for women, it was like, I want to lose weight. If they had kids, it was like, I want to be around for my kids, which is totally makes sense. Or I want to look good in a bikini. Or if it was the guys, I just want to get jacked. That was what I got in Australia. That's all it was I just want to get jacked if you're a guy. But here's the thing, like if everyone's saying the same thing, that's not your specific why. Your specific why is like, I'm terrified of getting old and I want to make sure that I am fit and healthy. That's actually one of the biggest reasons why I exercise. I realized at the age of 20 that if I'm not fit and active and I'm not healthy, when I get to, you know, 50, 60, 70, it's not going to be a fun ride. So, you know, making the sacrifices now to make sure that you're fit and healthy goes a long way.
Yeah, I think what happens with some people as well is they get to a certain point and, you know, maybe they're married and they've got no one to impress. The partner's maybe a little bit overweight and they just think, fuck it, just let it all go.
Yeah, it's tough, right? And especially when you've got kids. Like I don't have kids, but you have kids. I'm sure those early years with kids, you're sleep deprived, you're tired, you're trying to make sure that they're like you're
The worst thing about it at the moment, right, is my son Leo absolutely loves pasta bolognese. Yeah, so whenever I'm meal prepping, he's like, "Can I have a bit of that?" And I'm like, "Mate, it is weighed."
Oh, you weigh your food?
Yeah. so he's like, but I like that. That's my favorite food, and he can smell it. Like he comes like flying down the stairs as soon as so I have to make a little bit extra for him now every time.
Bless, that's so funny. But I know what it's like. I actually did bodybuilding comp, so I actually did fitness modeling years ago, and I was weighing my food, and I remember my brother came home and I'd weighed everything out. And I will say this, I have never been more raged in my life when I saw my brother eating my food. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Like, I have just weighed all of that. Yeah. What are you doing? Yeah. And he's just like, what? It's so annoying when someone screws up your meal prep. And I will say, like, I've never, ever wished violence on anyone or never been a violent person. But in that moment,
yeah,
you know, because when you're doing comps, you're hungry, you're like, you weigh everything out. Like every morsel of food is so important. But yeah,
my mate's a bodybuilder, and when he was doing his last comp and he was in the last 2 weeks of his prep, before the competition, he wouldn't even answer any text to me or anything. He was like, I'm so angry, I'll speak to you after the competition, which he won, but yeah.
You do get angry. The final 4 weeks, as the week, like, so from 4 weeks on, you start really dropping. Yeah. And then the final week and the final 2 weeks, it's like hell week. Like you just don't want to talk to anyone. You're exercising daily. Your calories are so low.
Yeah, I think at one point he was allowed an ice cube or something.
I always say, like when people look at bodybuilders, like, oh, look at them. It's like, it's actually not healthy to do that for long term. Like it's really not. So like people like, look how fit and healthy they are. It's like, no, like trust me, to get that lean. Like I went on stage at like 10% body fat, and that's for a woman, that's really low. That's not okay for a long period of time. But I will say I was very angry. Like I was probably hangry is probably the better word. The final week or two was just
what was your first meal that you had after the comp?
I had so much ice cream.
Yeah, that's what
I didn't even really like ice cream.
He had ice cream waiting for him, yeah.
I don't even really like ice cream. So it was just a weird craving, because you get the weird cravings, right? Yeah. It's just like I had like craving for peanut butter, which I don't like. I eat, but I'm not like massively into it. But then I was like really into ice cream there for a bit. Like, and I got like, just give me all the ice cream. But then I had a PT that was like, you got a reverse diet, which is awful because you've done all this hard work. You've dieted for however many, I think I dieted for 17 weeks. And then they're like, no, slow it down and like reverse diet out of it. So you're like doing a similar diet just to make sure that you're not gaining too much weight and all that kind of stuff. But I'll never do a comp again. That's just because of the hangries. But no, that's really funny. So Thomas asked a question and I missed it. I'm so sorry, Thomas, if you're still there. So a LinkedIn question, I believe. So what would you like to see out of the LinkedIn platform in the next 6 months, and what don't you like about it now? Good question, Thomas.
So what would I like to see out of the LinkedIn platform in the next 6 months, and what don't I like about it now? So I don't like people reporting people for no reason whatsoever and get a few people who I know have been banned just over daft things as well, like, and I know that it's a professional network, but we've all got personalities, and if the odd swear word comes out, so be it. If somebody's using expletive after expletive, then I totally understand where they're coming from, but some people use expletives in passionate situations, and
mine's in my business name, so
exactly. Yeah, I just don't get it's become over the last sort of six months or something, you know, a place where there's just so many snowflakes around and this should be on Facebook. Why should it be on Facebook? It's a social media platform. Why should it be on Facebook as opposed to this platform?
I agree. I've got to say, I know a few people that have either been permanently banned or banned for like a period of time for someone just reporting, like people getting together just reporting people. It's annoying.
Do you know what? Like, you know, they might be reporting them or mass reporting them because they dislike them, but you're actually taking food off that person's table. Do you know, like, you know, that person uses this platform just like everybody else does, you know, to generate business and leads for their business to put food on the table, basically for the
if you don't, and I always say you're taking food out of their kids' mouths as well. Like if you don't care about them, care about their kids. Like you don't need. Yeah, you don't. If you don't, here's the thing: if you don't like someone's content, just unfollow them. Unblock them. I unfollow people all the time if I don't like their content. If they've done something that, or they're consistently doing something that I just don't like, I just unfollow them. But they have to have done something pretty annoying for me to unfollow them. So
I've done it with a few people who I just think, you know what, you're not my type of person. I'm probably not yours, so that's fine.
It's fine.
See you later. Yeah,
it's no dramas with that either. And I think that LinkedIn, I will say in the last 18 months from my experience, it's definitely changed a lot more with a lot more reporting, a lot more issues with people getting banned, a lot more people especially getting banned for silly things like mass reporting, which is creating an AI to take that person's post down or take that person off. It's just, and it's harsh. Sometimes it's a little bit too harsh to actually take someone's whole platform and give them a permanent ban. That's just silly. Like,
I actually paid about 400 quid for a video that just got banned, and I was like,
"What?"
So it was the LinkedIn Q&A one, if you remember, when I answered some questions of people, and it had the word erection in it, but lo and behold, I own a marquee hire business, so I'm allowed to use that word, even though it was sort of
tongue in cheek.
Yeah, and it was sort of a bit innuendo-y, but do you know what? It wasn't bad, and it got banned, but I put it on YouTube.
I think I actually saw that video for a little bit, and I thought it was pretty funny. But do you know what? If you don't, I always say, if you don't like somebody, that's completely fine, but treat others the way you would like to be treated. If you don't want to be banned and if you don't want to be blocked, and if you think that your content is better than someone else's because you don't get banned or blocked, get off your high horse. If you don't like their content, just don't like it. That's cool. Just move on.
Scroll on.
Scroll on by. That's completely a great way to be. Now, something that you put out a couple of days ago, which I had no idea was a part of your background, was a really, really, really sweet post about your daughter meeting one of your is it a football star or something like that?
He's the manager of Liverpool Football
There you go. And she got to meet him when she was going through her cancer treatment. Yeah. So your daughter, was that 2017?
Yeah, 2017, August 2017. That's when we found out. Yeah. So basically, what happened was my daughter Evie had a bit of a sore tummy. She was really in pain. Went to the walk-in centre. The lady in the walk-in centre, the nurse, said that she has got constipation. Evie was a bit of a sort of lazy girl. So my wife said she hasn't got constipation because I still wipe her bottom after she's been to the toilet. And no, it isn't constipation. The nurse wasn't really helpful after that. So mother's intuition, she took her straight to the hospital and said, look, I want a second opinion about this. Took her to the A&E department. Within an hour or something, they were putting scans on her. When they scanned, they couldn't see her internal organs because this tumour was that big inside her, like a watermelon. It's called a Wilms tumour. So one of her kidneys developed this tumour from birth, and it just grew and grew and grew until she was, in 2017, she would have been 5. Yeah, 5. So, they operated within days, and then the chemotherapy started. So when when we went in to see the surgeon, he said, look, no cancer is good, but I've got a daughter similar age, and if I had to pick a cancer that I could sort out for my daughter, it would be this one, and I'm going to sort it out for you. So that was in Alder Hey Hospital. They took it out. When they took it out, they had to remove it with 2 hands. It was that big.
Wow.
All her lungs were up by a sort of armpits and everything else. So she was in a right mess. And yeah, that's it. Yeah, we sort of just took every day as it comes since then. Yeah.
And she's doing all right now?
Yeah, she's absolutely fine. She's back in school now. She had 2 years off school, yeah, and then went in and smashed the SATs. That's what that girl's about. So, yeah.
That's intense. To be honest, I've got to say you're one of the most positive people on LinkedIn. You don't allow things to sort of knock you down.
No.
And why do you think that is? Because honestly, I think that a lot of people could take a leaf out of your book. It's just, you just seem to sort of get on with it in a way. And you've had a lot of curveballs. Like you've had a lot of curveballs to the face.
Yeah, well, you know, when your daughter's been through that, there's not a lot that life can throw at you. To, you know, if you can get over that, right? Probably now is probably the only time that I wouldn't have. I'm not crying talking about it. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So if you can get over that with your daughter and everything else, because, you know, if I could have swapped places with her, I would have. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you can get over that, you can get over anything, can't you? I think.
Yeah. And you were saying, you know, actually, I'll just mention this. I've spoken to Ryan Armitage, who you've spoken to as well. And Ryan always talks about his benchmark is his mum. So after all he went through, so if you haven't listened to Ryan's story, make sure you go check out that podcast. But Ryan always says that his mum is his benchmark. And if she can get up in the morning and put on her makeup and go to work, so can he. And I guess that from, you know, watching your daughter go through that, smashing the SATs, I guess, you know, she
Ryan had a big thing himself, didn't he, with his brother who committed suicide and everything else unexpectedly. Yeah. So, you know, if you can get over something like that, it's pretty similar in the way that, you know, it's a huge trauma, isn't it? You know, nobody prepares you for parenthood, but definitely nobody prepares you for that during parenthood, if that makes sense. So, yeah, I don't know. It's just like maybe these things have happened to me in the past, and it's just sort of made me resilient. Because you know, when that happened, we all had to just group together and attack it. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, I don't know.
No, I agree. I think that, you know, to be fair, when we were speaking off camera, you were talking about how it's like, you know, if you can't, don't stress about things that you can't fix. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah. So if you can't change something, what's the point in stressing about it? Just try and take some sort of counteract things with things that you can do. Don't worry about things that you can't do, because you can't do it. Just let it go and just do what you can.
I always say, so when people, especially when it was lockdown, I always said to people, you know, write down all the things that you can't control, write down all the things you can control, write down all the things you can't control, and then write down all the things you can influence. You might you might not be able to control everything, but you might be able to influence certain things. Like, for instance, exactly like if we use your example, no one could control lockdown. You couldn't control when you could work and when you couldn't work. But what you could do is you could influence how you're going to react to that by going, you know, I'm going to go in there, clean all my marquees, make sure that the minute lockdown ends, I can smash it out of the park. You influence that. Like, you didn't just wait.
Another good thing to do is write down the things that you can't control. Yeah, write them all down and then rip that piece of paper up and put them in the bin, and just like make a physical sort of, I can't control that. See you later. Yeah. And then stick with the things that you can.
Yeah, look at all the things that you can control and what you can do and what you can influence as well. I think the influencing one's a really big one as well. Like, you know, we can't control the weather, but you can influence how you're going to react to it by making sure that you're prepared, by having a jacket with you, an umbrella, all that kind of jazz. It's not about the control thing. So, Honestly, I love talking with you. I know you've got a meeting though, so we can wrap it up now. But before we jump off, firstly, I want to say thank you so much for spending some time talking with me. I really appreciate it.
No worries.
Probably the first time that we chatted. We've been trying to organize a student catch up prior to this. didn't happen because, hey, you got
We'll
busy
be doing
doing it.
I'm sure we'll be talking more now.
100%. So I wanted to thank you anyway. But I always ask everyone this question before we sign off. What is one thing what one tip would you give somebody to help them get their shit together, either literally or figuratively?
What one tip? Always have a plan.
Always have a plan.
Yeah. Anything that you do in life. So if I walk into a gym, I have a plan of what I'm going to do in that day. If I'm going to cook some food, I have a plan of what, always make sure that you're prepared and planned, because otherwise you're not going to have your shit together, are you?
Absolutely. So if people want to find out a little bit more about what you do, how they can get involved in the franchising,
so if anybody wants to, I love just sort of interacting with people. So if there's somebody who isn't connected with me watching now and you kind of like my vibe, just connect with me. If you're interested in the franchise, drop me a DM. But yeah, just, let's connect and engage and have the bants.
Have the bants. That's exactly what you're all about, which is having some banter, which I really like. Is there anywhere else where people can see you, like Instagram, anything like that?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram for business, but most of my stuff is I'm just LinkedIn. LinkedIn, baby.
LinkedIn. Yeah, I'm the same. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. It's been awesome. You've honestly got one of the best mindsets that I've seen in a while. So thank you so much for sharing all your stuff. And if you haven't checked out Iain's stuff, make sure you 100% connect with him. He's always got some really good content going out, hilarious jokes, hilarious bants. Go give him a follow. All right. As always, guys, everyone have a lovely afternoon. As always, guys, get your shit together literally and figuratively.